In this channel, we normally talk about what happens to the body when you do something. For example, when you eat, what happens to the body? Does it raise our insulin levels? Does it lower insulin levels? When you get angry, what happens inside the body? And when you exercise, what does exercise do to the body, inside the body, so that you can grow the muscle or you can burn the fat? So in this, we are going to look at when you exercise, you expend some energy. Your body spends some energy, and that's what people call you are burning calories. But where does that energy come from? That's what we are going to look up coming right up. Energy for our activities, our exercise activity, comes from two sources. You can have blood sugar energy or the long-term stored fat, the fat that we do not want, that is stored in our tummy, in areas basically we do not want. So there are two sources of energy. So the body, when you're doing exercise, the body will choose either of those two energy. One of those energy will be used more than the other in one condition, and then at another condition it will switch to another, and another form of energy will be used more than the other. So how does the body determine this? There's something called fat burning zone. If you want to burn your energy, your long stored fat energy, the body has to operate in the fat burning zone. But what is this fat burning zone? Fat burning zone is determined by the heart rate when you're exercising. So if you're doing an exercise that is beyond a certain heart rate, you are outside the fat burning zone. But if you are below a certain heart rate, you are within the fat burning zone. So how do we determine our heart rate? A human being has something called maximum heart rate. Maximum heart rate is a rate at which, if you exercise beyond that, you can get into lethal problems like cardiac arrest and anything else. So that is your maximum heart rate. Maximum heart rate is determined by taking 220, then you minus your age. So if, for example, a person is 40, his maximum heart rate will be 220 minus 40, which is 180. Now, fat burning zone is a percentage of that maximum heart rate. It's 60% of that maximum heart rate. So for our example, the fat burning zone is within below 60% of 180 is 108. So if a person does an exercise that is below, his heart rate is below 108, he'll be in fat burning zone. If he goes past 108, he will be out of fat burning zone and will start using the blood sugar. Okay, the blood sugar energy. So he won't be burning fat, he will be burning blood sugar. Okay, so he will not be burning fat because he's outside the fat burning zone. I give an example of these cars called hybrid. If you have an hybrid car, when you drive it below a certain speed, for most of them is 80 kilometers per hour. If you drive them below 80 kilometers per hour, they will be using electric energy. But once you go past 80 kilometers per hour, they switch to fuel. Okay, you see, it's the same. It's almost the same operation mechanism for the body. So if you go past that set heart rate for you, you will be in burning another form of energy rather than the fat that you want to burn. So, and there is a scientific explanation for this. Burning fat, it's called fat oxidation, requires a lot of oxygen and a crazy amount of mitochondria. Okay, so how it happens is, if you're doing an exercise that is below that set threshold we have said, where you are not gasping for energy, for oxygen. Remember, if you do something like heavy cardio, you are gasping for oxygen. That means you do not have sufficient oxygen in the body. But if you are below a heart rate, that is like 106 for our example, this person is not gasping for energy, for oxygen. So he has sufficient oxygen. And those exercises that are done below that heart rate are the ones we call aerobic exercises. We call them aerobic exercises. Aerobic means they are done with oxygen. So they are not very heavy such that you are running out of breath. I know our culture has taught us to think aerobic exercise are different kind of exercise, but basically that is what it means. Is that this exercise you are doing as simple as even sweeping the floor, because you dispense energy. You are sweeping the floor, you are dispensing energy. Already that is aerobic exercise, because you are doing it with oxygen. You do not gasp when you're sweeping the floor, do you know? So that is aerobic exercise. You are doing them and there is plenty of oxygen as you are doing them. Fat burning cannot occur if there is no presence of oxygen. And if you go past that set limit you have said, which you are above the fat burning zone, you start gasping for energy. That's why you're huffing and puffing as you run or you do that heavy cardio. That means you do not have sufficient oxygen coming in. At that point, you'll be burning blood sugar, which is what we do not want for our goal. Remember, here you're talking about goal. If the goal is fat loss, that heavy cardio that is beyond that set limit, it's not going to work for our fat loss if the goal is fat loss. And I have an example. This example is coming from one of my friends. Thank you, Charles, for sharing your data and allowing it to be used by our audience. The audience is very thankful to you. Charles is a man of 40 around 40 years. That's why I use the example of 40 years. So that means his maximum heart rate is 180. So because of 220 minus 40 is 180. So his fat burning zone is below 108. Is below 108. If he exercises within 108, he'll be burning fat. So if you look at these statistics that we have here for him, that he has shared from his, he has an app for tracking his exercise. If you look at this graph where we have his heart rate is higher than 108, it's actually 155. The fat burning time, if you can look at the fat burning time, is less than 1 minute. So for all this work he was doing, for all that period, only 1 minute, less than 1 minute he was burning fat. And the exercise say outdoor running. So as you can see, for all that time, fat burning less than 1 minute. On the other side, when you look at this other chart, you see his heart rate is lower than 108. Actually, it's 106. But the fat burning is 33 minutes. The exercise says outdoor walking. You see, for outdoor walking, he spent more time. Most of the time, he was burning fat than when he was doing an exercise that is above 108. So in the real sense, that just like what I said, is that if you do the exercise, if the goal is fat burning, you're not supposed to get, your exercise should not get out of that fat burning zone. And we are saying here, because of the goal is to lose fat, because also the running has its own benefit. But for the goal of burning fat, it doesn't help. If the goal is to improve cardiovascular endurance, improve your performance if you're an athlete, the running is okay. So we do not recommend, that's why in this channel we do not recommend a one-size-fits-all for everyone, because an exercise that is fat burning for someone can be a cardio for another one. So depending on your age, you should be careful on what exercise do we recommend, depending on the age of the individual. And the other thing, depending on the goal. Maybe one person has already lost fat, but now they want to enhance their cardiovascular endurance, but another one wants to just lose fat. So the two of them will not do the same exercise. So maybe the one for burning fat should walk, and this other one should run, because also running has its own advantage. You can increase your growth hormone, so that when you go to the gym, you can do you can pull a lot of weight and improve your muscle building, which in the long run will burn fat, because muscles burn fat faster, because they are very highly metabolic. But that is in the long run. In the short term, running will not help you if you are looking for losing fat. So in this channel, we do not give a problem without giving a recommendation or a solution. So what is our solution? For my particular solution, is I always talk of my experience, is that you change your exercise from running into more of walking. Okay? So have long walks. It's recommended to have 12,000 steps in a day. So if you have you're not into running, get into walking. Start by getting into walking, and check how much you walk right now. Wherever you walk, because I'm sure you do some form of walking, increase that by 1,000 steps until you reach the target. And then when you start walking, you'll get used to it. And this is definite, you will lose weight. You will lose fat. This one is no guesswork. You will lose weight. And then when you walk, the amount of fat you burn is dependent on your weight. The heavier you are, the more you burn. So when you walk and you start losing, so every day when you lose, you'll start burning lesser fat. So what do? You do this thing gym rats call progressive overload. So you make the walking difficult, not by running. You make it more difficult by maybe adding weight. So you can put a bag on your back that has 5 kg so that you can be burning the same fat like you are burning before you lost those 5 kgs. The other way you can do progressive overload with walking is that you can increase the number of steps you are walking, so that if you're walking 8,000 steps, you can now do 10,000 steps, and you make it more challenging by doing places that have incline and in uneven terrains. The good thing with walking is that it's easy to make it a consistent effort. It's not like running, which I do walking in my 6 days of walking. I normally see people running, but I never meet the same face twice, which means running is difficult to be consistent with it. And with all these fat losing journey, you need to be consistent. Consistency is the key. So the more consistent you can be, the better it will be for you. And walking does that one very easy, because you do not need to wear anything special. You just get on the road and start walking. That's all I have for now. Thank you for watching. Continue subscribing, liking our video, and sharing widely. And I'll see you in the next one.